for the first time of what I think since the beginning of June, we actually have a full slate of action in an MLS match week, as we are going to be having 12 games this week, and we're going to be having 2 on Friday, 9 on Saturday, and 1 on Sunday. But without being said, let's actually begin with the full slate action that's going to be happening this match week. And we begin the first match between the Redbulls and Chicago, with the Redbulls currently have a record of 7-3-6, while Chicago have a record of 4-7-6. The Redbulls, of course, lost to Philly away, but that was all the way back in June 8th and all the way back 3 weeks ago, before the Gold Cup break has begun, and that they're one of those few teams that didn't play in the previous match week, and that they have had a long break since the last league games. Well, Chicago, they're one of the many teams that did play during the MLS match week number 16 or on the midweek games, and they did play on the midweek games where they drew 1-1 to RSL at home. Now, in terms of the top goal scored for the Red Bulls, Brian White currently leads the team with 4 goals, Daniel Royer with 3, Kaku with 2, Omar Fernandez with 2, and Christian Caceres with 2 assists too. For Chicago, Nicholas Gaitan with 5 assists, Shimisha Frankowski with 4 assists, or 4 goals, Alexander Katai with 3 goals, Dax McCarty with 3 goals, and CJ Sapon with 2 goals. And, it's safe to say that the Red Bulls are definitely favorites in this game, because they're playing at home against a Chicago side that you just don't know what kind of team is going to show up. It might be a team that actually do well against an MLS opponent, and it might be a team that might be playing like what they did against RSL, which was not very good. However, Chicago, for whatever reason, have actually had a decent record with the Red Bulls, and that I believe they also beat the Red Bulls earlier this season, and I do remember that they were one of the few teams that actually was able to beat the Red Bulls at Red Bulls Arena. So there's that, of course, going in favor of them in terms of history, but I have no doubt that the Red Bulls should be able to win this one, and that, I know they had a long rest and that they're going to be a little bit more rusted than Chicago is. I still think that they should be heavy favorites in this one, and they should be able to win this game, mainly because they're starting to get in on a road of them climb up the table and eventually being one of the best team in the Eastern Conference. But that being said, moving on into the next match is Colorado. So this is a matchup between first and last in the Western Conference. However, when you think of a first and last kind of matchup, you would think the team in first place will just easily walk over the team that is in dead last. And in this case, the dead last team, of course, is the Rapids with a 4-4-9 record, while LAFC has the best record in MLS and the most points total in MLS with 11-4-1. Like I said, LAFC is the best team in MLS. Colorado is the worst team in MLS, and you would think LAFC will just completely destroy them, but Colorado is unbeaten in 6 games after their historic bad 11-game winless run to start the season. For Colorado, Kai Kamara, Kai Kamara currently has 8 goals. Andre Shinishiki, surprisingly, have now got 4 goals with this team, and for a kid that certainly a lot of people haven't heard about, and that he's been kind of one of those guys that has been just in form ever since Colorado has been on this unbeaten run. He's now got 4 goals right now, including 3 in this 6-game unbeaten run that the Rapids are in. Nicholas Mesquita is also another guy that is pretty in form in this 6-game unbeaten streak for the Rapids. He currently has 3 goals. Diego Rubio with 2 goals, and Benny Feilhaber, no longer with the team, now with Sporting KC, with 2 goals for Colorado. For LAFC, Carlos Vela currently leads the team and also the league with 16 goals so far in MLS, and is still on point of breaking Joseph Martinez's single goal scoring record if he can continue this pace. While Diego Rossi currently have 8 goals so far for LAFC. Then we got Mark Anthony Kaye with 3 goals for LAFC, Diamande with 3 goals with LAFC, and Christian Ramirez with 3 goals with LAFC. And as I mentioned of the fact that, whenever you get a first versus last matchup, usually the team in first is going to roll over the last place team. However, in this match, because Colorado is unbeaten in 6 games, and that Colorado is playing at home, which lately they have been untouchable at home. Like Dick's Sporting Goods Port or the Sun have become a fortress for the Rapids, and it's easy for LAFC to underestimate Colorado, and that it's easy for them to say that it's going to be an easy win for them, even though this season it seemed like every team except Vancouver, they have pretty much steamrolled against their opponents. So, we'll see how this one is going to go. If Colorado can get something out of this, I actually won't be that surprised because they have been in a very good form lately, and that this will definitely be the toughest test for Colorado doing this 6-game unbeaten run. Not that I'm saying that doing this 6-game unbeaten run that Colorado hasn't been good, but the fact is that this is the best team in the league, and they are facing them this match week. It's a good chance to test to see where exactly they are. And even if they don't win this game, if they make it competitive, then yeah, I think Colorado should definitely be taken very seriously. Similar to what happened with the Quakes, of how, a lot of people said that the Quakes are a team that you would think that they're definitely for real because of the run that they in. And then once they face against LAFC, and although they didn't win against LAFC in that US Open Cup, they really make people notice that yeah, that team can definitely hang with LAFC, and that team could have beat LAFC on another day if the Quakes would have finished those chances that they had in that US Open Cup game. But meanwhile, moving on into the next matchup is the struggling derby. Minnesota, they play against the bottom feeders FC Cincinnati. Minnesota have a record of 6-3-7, while FC Cincinnati has a dreadful record of 3-2-12. While Minnesota, of course, they only have 1 win out of their last 8 games, while FC Cincinnati is winless in 5 games, and I believe they have 1 win out of 12 or 13 games. Yeah, this is the struggling derby, and it's also a derby where both of these teams don't really have a lot of top goals scored. For Minnesota, Darwin Quintero currently have 5 goals, but he hasn't been really himself this season in terms of in the league. Angelino Rodriguez with 4 goals. Romero Ibarra no longer with the team, and that is currently on loan with a Liga MX team, currently have 2 goals. Romeo Mentiner with 1 goal, and Jan Gregish with 1 goal for Minnesota. For FC Cincinnati, Maddox currently have 2 goals, Kakuta Mane with 2 goals, Alan Cruz with 2 goals, Kenny Sayev with 1 goal, and Leandro Bertun with 1 goal. And something tells me this is going to be a low-scoring game. I mean, this, with the way that, I think for Minnesota, they're still going to be the favorites in this game, and it all depends on whether or not if they can put away their chances in these games. I mean, Minnesota is a team that struggled to score goals, but they're not a team that struggles in terms of creating chances. And that, in other words, they're a team that struggled to score goals, but they also struggle in terms of finding that clinical finish. And, they play against an FC Cincinnati team that seems to do none of that. Not only they cannot score, they cannot create chances, but now, all of a sudden, they cannot defend too. So, it will be very fascinating to see how this one goes. I have a feeling this could be a low-scoring game, because if Minnesota don't put away their chances, if they do put away their chances, then I think this could be a big win for Minnesota. But if this is a Minnesota team that we've seen in these last couple of games where they just cannot put away those chances when they needed to, then this could definitely be a low-scoring game, and I won't be surprised if this game ends 0-0. But moving on into the next match is Atlanta. So Atlanta is going to be playing against Montreal. Atlanta, of course, their record is now 8-2-6, while Montreal, their record is 9-3-7, and Montreal is currently second in the Eastern Conference, while Atlanta is currently 4th place. Atlanta obviously suffered that heartbreaking loss against TFC in that last match, and in that crazy and bizarre kind of ending match against Toronto FC on the road. While Montreal, they of course won 2-1 at home against a Portland team that was basically playing their second string team. But in terms of the top goal scored for Atlanta, not surprisingly, Joseph Martinez currently with 10 goals. He is really started to heat up after he has struggled for the first part of the first half of the season. Then followed that by Ezekiel Barco with 4 goals. And by the way, Joseph Martinez won't be available in this game because he's still with Venezuela in Copa America. Ezekiel Barco won't be available in this game because he's currently injured right now with this team. He will be out for 2 weeks because of a foot injury. Julian Gueso currently with 3 goals so far. Pity Martinez with 2 goals and Hector Villalba with 1 goal. And Hector Villalba is another guy that won't be available for Atlanta because he's also in the Atlanta IR list right now. For Montreal, Safia Taidir currently leads the team with 7 goals. Orji Okawanko with 4 goals, including 2 spectacular goals that he scored in that last game against the Portland Timbers. Nacho Piatti, of course, have 3 goals, but he, of course, is going to be out for a couple more weeks, while Omar Brownlee currently with 2 goals, and Jackson Hamo rounds up the top 5 list in terms of the top goal scored for Montreal with 2 goals. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how Atlanta, of course, bounce back after that heartbreaking loss and that crazy ending against TFC. They have been very good so far at home if you don't count what has happened to them in the beginning of the season. And they're facing a Montreal side that, it's tough to figure out this Montreal team because they had hit a tough patch a couple of weeks ago, but now all of a sudden they started to win games again. But having said that, those wins that they got was against Portland and RSL was a team that they faced that they got a win, but that was an RSL team that just cannot win on the road. And then they play against a Timber team that wasn't even starting their starting 11. So there's a little bit of an asterisk in terms of some of the Montreal wins and how they started to kind of bounce back to what they were in the beginning of the season, which was they were very impressive in the beginning of the season. And now they're going to be facing it against an Atlanta team that, they are definitely going to be very angry after what happened in the last game. And I still think that, with the last game, I know it was a heartbreaking loss, but surely, even though in the last game without Joseph Martinez, Tito Villalba, and also Barco in the last game, I would think they should have enough in order to beat Montreal. But then again, Montreal is a team that I know they're just going to bunker in this game, and they're going to trying to preserve a 0-0 draw. And Atlanta is a team that, especially this season, tends to be more defensive and a team that doesn't score a whole ton of goals. So this could, just like what I said about the Minnesota versus FC Cincinnati game, this could also have a recipe of being a very low scoring game, and that maybe somehow it might end up with Atlanta winning 1-0, or maybe Montreal somehow sneaks a goal in there, and that this game, of course, ends in a ties. But we'll see how this one is going to go. It's kind of a weird kind of matchup with the fact that while this is kind of like a top 4 matchup between 2 of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, you have one team that is definitely on point to trying to get the crown of the Eastern Conference as the season goes on. And then you have one team that is basically just playing wounded and just hoping that they can just grind resort so that they can finish in the top part of the Eastern Conference and make the playoffs. So it's an interesting kind of matchup, but we shall see, of course, get a win in terms of this matchup. And now moving on into the next match is NYCFC. They, of course, are going to be playing against the Union. NYCFC, their record is 5-8-1, and it's very strange the fact that NYCFC actually have the same amount of losses as LAFC right now. However, the only reason why NYCFC is currently in 6th place is because they're the draw king of MLS. Like, they have drawn the most game out of anybody in MLS with 8 of their first 14 matchup that they have played so far this season has ended in a draw. Well, they play against a Union side that, they of course still has the best record in the Eastern Conference, and their record is 9-5-4, although Montreal is only 2 points behind Philly, and I think DC is also 2 points behind Philly, so it's getting a little bit tight again in terms of the Eastern Conference race. Like, right now, the Eastern Conference race for the top is just, it's kind of like a tug of war right now between DC, Montreal, and also Philly. And then eventually, maybe if all three of these teams started to kind of continue to slip up, Atlanta would eventually kind of take advantage of that and take the top spot away. But as of now, Philly is still the top team in the Eastern Conference, and they currently I actually said the record is 9-5-4. They of course drew 1-1 against New England, and in that game it was not a pretty game by them, and in some way they kind of got fortunate that they were able to get a point out of that game. While NYCFC of course won 5-2 against FC Cincinnati, and just like their crosstown rival, the Redbulls, NYCFC have not played a game ever since the beginning of the month, and as we were beginning this 18-day Gold Cup break. In terms of the top goal scorer for NYCFC, Abear currently leads the team with 6 goals, Tajuri Shradi with 4 goals, Alexandro Matrita with 4 goals, Maxi Morales with 3 goals, and Valentin Castellanos with 3 goals for NYCFC. For Philly, Kasper Shabilko currently have 5 goals. Elzinho with 4 goals with the Union. Montero with 4 goals. David Acom, no longer on the team and now currently with the Columbus Crew, has 4 goals for this team. And Sergio Santos rounds up the top 5 top goal scorer for Philly with 3 goals so far. And this is definitely going to be a matchup that, we'll see if Philly, of course, can bounce back after only getting a point out of New England and didn't really play very well, as they're going to be playing against an NYCFC team that, unsurprisingly, are very good at home. And that, it will be interesting to see how this pressing style that Philly use will kind of affect when they play in such a small dimension at Yankee Stadium. I mean, the whole reason why NYCFC tends to have a good record against team at Yankee Stadium is teams always get completely off guard with the dimension at Yankee Stadium, and that it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's almost like playing at a bandbox kind of stadium. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how the Union will address, and whether if that press system that Jim Curtin has been using throughout the season will work out when they play against NYCFC on the road. And NYCFC, the question is, can they get another win? I mean, they haven't been bad this season. I mean, they have pretty much been unbeaten 13 out of their first 14 games, but there's been just way too much games that they have drawn, and that if they want to really climb themselves up in the Eastern Conference, they got to start winning games and not just keep drawing games. Because when you keep drawing games, I mean, you will of course still stay in the playoff race, but you're not really going to go anywhere if you're just going to keep drawing games at the rate that NYCFC is doing right now. But moving on into the last game on this board before I switch board for the last 6 games of this match week is Columbus. They play against Orlando City. Columbus 5-2-10, while Orlando City is 5-3-8. And Columbus, of course, winless in 5 games, while Orlando City, they lost 1-0 to DC United away. And this is another game I think it could definitely be a low-scoring game, because Columbus is one of those teams that don't score a lot of goals, and Orlando City is one of those teams that also don't score a lot of goals, but just like Minnesota, they are a team that just cannot score those goals because they cannot finish. They don't have like a goal scored that can put away chances. And in some way, I think this game between Columbus and Orlando City is kind of, I can basically just kind of copy and paste what I said about the Minnesota versus FC Cincinnati game and basically insert it into this one, because it's very similar, where you have one team, or you have both teams that can't finish. One team simply just cannot finish and cannot create chances, and then you have another team that do create chances, but they don't have anybody that can be able to put away those chances. Now, in terms of the top goal scored for Columbus, Jarzy Zardes, who's not going to be available in this game because he's with the U.S. men's national team, currently with 6 goals. Pedro Santos with 4 goals so far. Gaston Soro with 2 goals. Federico Higuain with 1 goal, although I don't think Higuain is going to be back in this game because he's still suffering that injury, and he's still sidelined with an injury. While Hector Jimenez with 1 goal so far with Columbus. For Orlando City, Nani currently leads the team with 8 goals. Tesha Akindele currently have 5 goals for Orlando City. Dom Dwyer with 4 goals. Chris Mueller with 3 goals. And Sasha Kleshton with 1 goal. And like I said, this could be a low-scoring game. And that depending on if Orlando City can actually put away their chances, which we've seen that in some games they can definitely do that, then I think they could either win big against Columbus, or this could be just a low-scoring game, which might favor Columbus because they're the home team and they tend to like to play in a low-scoring game. But that being said, let's move on into the next game. And actually, before I move on to the next game, let's now switch board and look at the last 6 games from this match week of number 17 here in MLS. But moving right along, we got New England take on Houston in this game. We got New England, who is currently 4-5-8, facing against a Dynamo team that is 7-3-5. New England, of course, drew 1-1 against Philly at home, while Houston, yeah, the struggle is definitely real for the Dynamo, who only have won 1 game in the last 7 matches. For the top goal scorer for New England, we got Carlos Hill leads the team with 4 goals. Christian Pineda, Juan Casado, and Juan Aguilera all with 3 goals. While Brendan Bai, of course, scored the goal against the Union in the last game. Now brings up his goal tally this season to 2 goals. While for Houston, Mauro Manotas currently leads the team with 6 goals. Most likely he could be back in the starting 11 after he came off the bench in the last game against San Jose. Then we got Albert Elise with 5 goals, and I'm pretty sure Dynamo fan would really want him to be in the starting 11 because, you know, now Elise is done for Honduras for the Gold Cup this year. He should be maybe back into the starting 11. And it's so key, the fact that he can get back into the starting 11, mainly because we've seen so far many games where Houston does not have Elise. They cannot really operate well going forward on the attack. Then we got Memo Rodriguez with 5 goals so far, Thomas Martinez with 2 goals, and Tommy McNamara rounds out the list with 1 goal. And, you know, when you look at this game, you got one team that is certainly started to figure things out, and that team, of course, is New England. Started to pick up some points, and that Bruce Arena has certainly started to transform this team to become a playoff team. I mean, New England is actually not that far out of the playoff picture. I believe they're 5 or 6 points out of the playoff picture, and if they can continue to be at a run that they're in right now, then they can definitely sneak above that playoff line. And we have seen so far this season that it doesn't take much for a team to have a good run before they can rise all the way up to the playoff line, or even near the top of the table, depending on where their position is. So yeah, for New England, you know, they have a good opportunity to play against a Houston team that, you know, as I said, they are struggling, and you don't know exactly if those important players like Manotas, Elise is going to be in the starting 11. And even if Elise is in the starting 11, will he be fresh enough in this game, knowing that he just played with the Honduran national team on Tuesday? So yeah, this is going to be very interesting, and in some way it's a big opportunity for New England to get a win at home against a Dynamo team that just cannot win on the road. Like, this Dynamo team, besides that 1 win against Colorado, they have not won a road game ever since. But moving on into the next match is DC. So DC is going to be playing against TFC, and I believe both of these teams actually play in the midweek action. And both of these teams kind of had some pretty interesting wins. For DC, they of course won 1-0 in that game against Orlando City, and that only goal that they scored was thanks to a Wayne Rooney, just a moment of magic where he basically just chipped the goalkeeper from 65 yards out, and arguably that could be the goal of the year this season. Well, for TFC, well, they had a very crazy game against Atlanta, and a very bizarre game, and also a very emotional game too, now that they finally ended their winless run at 8 games and improved their record to 6-4-7. Top goal scorer for DC, Wayne Rooney, as I mentioned, he's now up to 9 goals, and he was the player that scored what could be the goal of the year this season. Then we got Lucho Acosta sitting at 5 goals, Ulises Segura with 3 goals, Paul Arriola with 3, and Lucas Rodriguez with 2 goals. For TFC, Alejandro Pozuelo with 7 goals right now, Josie Altidore with 5 goals, Jordan Hamilton with 4 goals, Jonathan Osorio with 3 goals, and Nick DeLeon with 3 goals. But keep in mind, Altidore, Osorio is not going to be available in this game, so is Michael Brantley, because all of those guys are still with their national team in the Gold Cup. And it's interesting to see how will TFC play in this game after they had that emotional win. I mean, sometimes when you have an emotional win, you definitely does feel the momentum heading into the next game, that you definitely feel good about heading into the next one. But at the same time, it can also work against you. It could be that we have seen teams where they're coming off of an emotional win, and then literally 3 days later, after a quick turnaround game, that emotional win kind of took a little bit of a toll of the team, and it kind of took a little bit of a flatter in the next game. And that is kind of something I fear about TFC coming into this game against DC. Although DC, this is a team that, unfortunately, even with that 1-0 win that they had, and even with that spectacular Wayne Rooney goal being the difference in that game against Orlando City, they still are having issue in terms of scoring. And I gotta say, if this is DC, I think when you look at this attack, this is an attack that shouldn't be struggling in terms of goal scoring. And I think maybe they can break out of this spell against a TFC defense that has definitely not looked good so far this season. I mean, they have given up a ton of goals this season, but we'll see how this game is going to go, and we'll see, if TFC, after that dramatic victory, will there be kind of a little bit of a letdown heading into this game against DC, or will DC kind of finally score more than just the 1 goal that they've been scoring in pretty much every single game for the past month? But moving on into the next match is RSL. They take on Sporting KC, and you better believe both of these teams do not like each other. I mean, there's really not a name for this rivalry, but you know that whenever RSL and Sporting KC fans say, like, for RSL fan, if you ask who is their most hated rival, a lot of them won't say it would be Colorado, even though we got the Rocky Mountain Derby. A lot of them would say SKC because of the playoff kind of history. And then you got SKC, if you ask them who is their most hated rival, a lot of them won't say Houston, even though that's the closest in terms of geographics. A lot of them will say it's RSL because, once again, it's the playoff history. RSL, of course, coming into this game with a record of 6-2-8, while SKC coming into this record with a 4-7-6 record. RSL, of course, drew 1-1 against Chicago away, while Sporting KC finally won their first road game and become the last team in MLS to able to record a road win by winning 1-0 against Columbus. Top goal scored in this game, or top goal scorer for both teams, RSL, Albert Rusnak currently is the top goal scorer for that team with 6 goals. Then followed by Sam Johnson with 5 goals, DeMar Krylak with 3 goals, Jefferson Savarino also with 3 goals, and Bofo Salcedo with 2 goals for RSL. As for SKC, there's actually 3 players that is tied with 7 goals for Sporting KC. We got Johnny Russell with 7 goals, Felipe Gutierrez with 7 goals, and Christian Nemeth with 7 goals. Then it's followed by Bucio with 3 goals, and Ilie Sanchez with 1 goal. But yeah, this is definitely going to be a heated kind of matchup. As I mentioned, both of these teams do not like each other. They remember what happened in the playoffs from last season. And, for RSL, this is a team that has been very good at home, and that, it's one of those teams that really want to take advantage of their home field advantage as a way to get wins. So, in some way, you would say that for RSL, this could be a bigger game for them than what it would be for Sporting KC. Although for Sporting KC, themselves are trying to get some wins on the road and get some wins so that they can get back into the playoff race. Like, both of these teams right now, with RSL, they're actually now below the red line after the Quakes, of course, beat Houston and push them down below the red line. Well, SKC is not that far from behind, so for RSL, they know that if they want to make the playoffs this season, they have to really win against a team that could potentially be chasing them for the playoffs right now. I mean, right now, when you look at the Western Conference, as tight as the playoff races near the red line, when you look at some of these teams that is in the bottom of the red line, teams like Vancouver, Portland, and SKC, these are very dangerous teams that you could say that could potentially rise up the table. And for RSL, they got to be aware that if they don't start playing well and they don't start performing, these teams are going to rise up the table and they are going to be left behind and be sitting at the bottom of, well, not the bottom of the Western Conference, but below the red line and won't make the playoffs this season. But moving on into the next match is the game of the week. And it's not very often I say the game of the week is between a match that the Quakes are in, but this seriously is the game of the week. It's the Quakes versus the LA Galaxy, the Cali Clasico at Stanford Stadium, and you better believe this is the biggest game of the season for the Quakes. Like, anytime, no matter if the Quakes are having a good season or having an historically bad season like last year, this is always the game that a lot of Quakes fans circle it, and I certainly circle this game every time the schedule comes by, and it is a game that I am just, like, I always have such an adrenaline coming into this game, because not only we're facing our biggest rival, but it's 50,000 people inside Stanford Stadium that's going to watch this game, and the atmosphere is going to be as great as you will ever see any matches at Avaya Stadium. But talk about this match, the Quakes, their record is 6-4-6, but don't let that distract you, the fact that the Quakes are one of the best team in the league, if not the best team in the league ever since the calendar turns to April. Well, the Galaxy, their record is 10-1-6, and they're currently second in the Western Conference. The Quakes are unbeaten in 5 games, while the Galaxy won 2-0 away to FC Cincinnati. Top goal scored for the Quakes. Wanda, of course, currently leads the team with 8 goals. Shea Salinas with 4 goals, Magnus Eriksson with 3 goals, Danny Houston with 3 goals, and Vako with 3 goals too. As for the Galaxy, Zlatan Ibrahimovic with 11 goals, Daniel Steres with 3 goals, Oreo Antuna, which he won't be available in this game because he's with the Mexican national team with 2 goals. Same thing with Jonathan Dos Santos, he's also with the national team, won't be available in this one with 2 goals, and Fabio Alvarez with 2 goals. And by the way, when I finish recording this video, I'm going to do a throwback kind of Thursday talking about the Cali Clasico at Stanford and the history that it has been in these past 7 matches in this Cali Clasico at Stanford, because these 7 games, most of these games at Stanford for the Cali Clasico is incredibly tight and has some crazy ending. And I just feel like the build-up of this game, not only the fact that I think this is going to be one of the best Cali Clasico, and kind of a Cali Clasico that is brought back to life after it kind of started to die down a little bit, but you got Guillermo Barrios Scaleto facing against Mateus Almeida, 2 managers that of course are manager that know each other very well, and that they were rival manager with each other when Almeida, of course, was coaching River Plate and Scaleto was playing against Boca Juniors. And on top of that, both teams does not like each other, the players don't like each other, the fans hate each other. This is going to be an absolute juicy kind of Cali Clasico, Cali Clasico, if I say the name correctly. I'm just so excited that I can't even speak right now with the way how important this game is. And at the end of the day, it might be 3 points in this game, and that 3 points might be important for both of these teams, but at the end of the day, it means more than that. I mean, I'm just so stoked to attend this game. This is probably going to be the most exciting Cali Clasico and the most anticipated Cali Clasico that I have ever attended, because there's never before where when you have a Quakes team that I know for certain is a very good team and can definitely go toe-to-toe against the Galaxy, and then you got a Galaxy team that also has been very good this season. This is going to be very, very interesting. And the only downside about this game is that for whatever reason, this game is not broadcast nationally. Like, why in the world did Univision, which has broadcast past Cali Clasico, and I've broadcast this game for the last 3 years, why in the world, when this is probably the biggest Cali Clasico that we have seen in years, and it's not broadcast nationally? That does not make any sense whatsoever. I feel like there should be a golden rule where when you have a Cali Clasico at Stanford Stadium, that has to be broadcast, whether it's on Univision, Unimas, ESPN2, ESPN, or even on FS1. This game has to be broadcast because it is one of the greatest rivalry in MLS, one of the most historic rivalry in MLS, and it's also known to be one of the craziest derby in MLS. But moving on into the next match is the other Cascadia derby, and the reason why I say it's the other Cascadia derby is that a lot of teams usually don't remember that while the Cascadia Derby, the main one, is between Portland and Seattle, a lot of people forget that the other Cascadia Derby is between Seattle and Vancouver, and the proximity of both cities is not really that far. But, Seattle, they're coming into this record with a 7-5-4 record, while Vancouver are coming into this game with a 4-8-6 record. Seattle, of course, lost 3 in a row coming into this game, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that a lot of their guys are currently with national team, and I think it's going to be no difference in this game. They're still going to miss so many of their key starters, especially on the attack due to national team duty. Well, they play against a Vancouver team that has a record of 4-8-6, and they drew 2-2 against FC Dallas away, a come-from-behind draw that they had against FC Dallas in that game. For Seattle, their top goal scorer, Raul Ruidiaz, with 6 goals. He most likely will not be available in this game. Calvin Leardown with 4 goals. Jordan Morris with 4 goals. Won't be available for this game because he was with the U.S. in the Gold Cup. Same thing with Christian Rodon. Won't be available for this game because he's also with the U.S. with 3 goals. And Nicolas Ladero, I think he's also going to miss this game because he's with Uruguay in the Copa America right now. While for Vancouver, Freddie Montero with 6 goals. Lucas Veneto, who of course scored that banger to get the equalizer for Vancouver in the last game against Dallas, with 3 goals. Jordi Reyna with 3 goals. Donnell Henry with 2 goals. And Ali Adnan with 1 goal for Vancouver. And this could potentially be the last ever game for Ali Adnan at the Vancouver Whitecaps. Why? His loan expires literally a day after this game, and you wonder for the Whitecaps, I haven't heard any news of the fact that they have decided to buy Ali Adnan, and if they cannot get this deal done, this is a huge loss for the Whitecaps, because Ali Adnan has been probably the most important player for this Vancouver Whitecaps team. Not only he's been good on the defensive end, but he's also very good going forward on the attack, and the fact that they're going to lose him because they decided to not pick up his option to buy him off a loan. Yeah, this is going to be a bit of a loss. But, this is going to be an interesting one because Seattle, they have definitely not been in a good run, and a lot of that has to do with a lot of guys currently injured. So can the Whitecaps take advantage of that? I mean, the Whitecaps this season, they haven't been spectacular on the road. And did I mention the fact that NYCFC was kind of like the draw king of MLS? Well, Vancouver is kind of like that too. I mean, Vancouver and NYCFC, both teams actually have drawn 8 games so far this season. The only difference is Vancouver this season, they have 6 losses so far this season compared to just NYCFC just losing 1 game this season. So they're not really kind of quite the draw king of MLS, and that they just tends to win some game, draw some game, and also lose some game. But like I said, this is a big opportunity for the Whitecaps to get some points against a Seattle team that's definitely not going to be the strongest starting 11, and that they're going to miss a lot of key players coming into this one. And finally, heading into the final game of this weekend, and I honestly really hate the fact that the league decided to put this game on a Sunday, and they decided to put at the latest kickoff possible in MLS, which is an 8 o'clock Pacific time kickoff and 11 o'clock Eastern time kickoff between the Portland Timbers and FC Dallas. Like, seriously, why in the world are we having 8 o'clock kickoff on a Sunday night? Like, I really felt bad for people in the East Coast who want to watch this game, and I even maybe feel bad for Dallas fan that, yeah, 10 o'clock on a Sunday and you have to watch your team play. Like, you know, I know that for some teams, East Coast team, when they play against a West Coast team and it's a night game, it's a little bit difficult because they have to stay late at night. But sometimes those games are on a Saturday, and you know, many people, they tend to stay up late on a Saturday too, but not on a Sunday. So I feel bad for Dallas fan knowing that they have to watch this game at 10 o'clock in their local time and in Central time. And this game also creates a bit of a problem in terms of me doing the review too. So now I cannot upload my review until the end of the game, and that I'm going to have to do what I've been doing with some of these games that's kind of end late, which is I'll just do one half of the review on Sunday afternoon and then do the remaining at the conclusion of this game, and that I'm going to have to upload this on Monday morning. So, yeah, it's very frustrated, but what can you do? The league decided that it was a great idea to schedule a Sunday night game at the latest possible at 8 o'clock Pacific time. But talk about this game between the Timbers and Dallas. Timbers, of course, they're 5-2-8, while Dallas is 7-5-6. Portland did lose their last match against Montreal, but it was basically a T2 team versus Montreal in that game, while Dallas, of course, drew 2-2 to Vancouver at home. Top goal scorer for Portland, Jeremy Abobasi and Brian Fernandez with 5 goals apiece, but I won't be surprised that Brian Fernandez will surpass that mark if he can score another goals in this game and he's starting in this game, then he will become the first player to ever have his first 5 games in MLS and score all 5 of those games. Then you got Diego Valeri with 4 goals, Sebastian Blanco with 2 goals, and Christian Paredes with 2 goals for the Portland Timbers. For Dallas, you got Jesus Ferreira with 5 goals, Dominic Obaji with 4 goals, Hollinshead with 3 goals, Ziegler with 3 goals, and Barrios with 2 goals. And you know, I'm pretty sure the Timbers are going to get most of their starting 11 back in that. I'm pretty sure Savarese is once again starting the strongest starting 11 against FC Dallas. And knowing the fact that whenever that happens and whenever Portland put a very good starting 11, especially at home, they are obviously going to win. And add to the fact that Dallas, you know, this is why it was so important for them to win against Vancouver at home, because you just had a feeling that coming into this weekend game against Portland, they probably will not be able to get a victory because they haven't been good on the road, and Portland at home has just been untouchable so far in these past couple of seasons. So yeah, I expect the Timbers should be able to win this one against Dallas, but you never know. Maybe Dallas can shred off of what happened on Wednesday and maybe get a surprising victory in this one. But either way, that is pretty much it for the preview of MLS Matchweek number 17. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of these games and which one you are going to be keeping a close eye on. And also let me know in the comments below your prediction for all 12 of these games. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button, and I, of course, will see you guys next time.